how can we continue to structure our businesses? So you want to go into a new business, you're already running a business. How can you stay constantly above the curve and ensuring that in this innovative era, in this internet era, in this fourth industrial revolution, how can you continue to be agile in your value creation, in your value capture, right? And so that's the thinking. We may not be able to give you the answers completely here, but it's just to set you in that thinking process to say, where did my business start from 5 years ago? Am I still there on the same model, right? Is there a better way for me to capture the value within my business, my business proposition? In the value chain of my business, where are the areas I'm playing in? Are there attractive adjacencies within the value chain that I can grow into based on my expertise within a part of the value chain, right? Are there areas I can scale because of the economies of scale in another area? These are the kind of thinking processes that we want people to begin to think about. And don't be stuck in the ways of your businesses. Is my current business idea or business model still relevant in this time? Now, let me tell you what 2023 is going to see. We're going to see an explosion of technology and adoption. Now, the ChatGPT got up to 1 million users within 5 days. 5 days. 5 days. I'm among the 1 million users because I got in it. But I think at some point they had to stop because they said they couldn't take more. They needed to upgrade the platforms and all that. But we were able to get in. So there's going to be an explosion, an exponential adoption of technology in this year. Where we started 2023 from won't be definitely where we will end it. Are you ready for that shift? A lot can happen within this year. Are you ready for that business model agility, business model innovation? So for instance, you are starting a new business. You want to say, okay, how do I capture my business model? There is something called the business model canvas. Business model canvas. I think it was, what's his name, Osterwater or something. I can't remember his exact name, but who formulated this template. But it's a simple template that you can actually use to capture your ideas. And I think this is one of the most innovative things that came out, in value or that impacts startups. Because you really don't need to be confused again as to where do I start? This is a very good place to start. And there are templates everywhere. You can go online, just Google business model canvas. You'll get an editable template to use. And it consists of usually 9 key areas. There's a part where you talk about the value proposition. Of course, before you start the business, you want to know, what am I bringing? What problem am I solving? Right? That's your value proposition. And how is it different from others? Then it becomes unique. So usually everybody should have a unique value proposition. For instance, roadmap. Why is roadmap different? Why is roadmap different? One, it is free, accessible. You don't have to, and there are no surprises, there are no ads, there are no, compared to the competitors, it's free, it's affordable, right? And then there is the part where you get the support. And then you can tailor your study or your needs. So, and that's the beauty of roadmap, for instance. You come into roadmap, you feel at the moment, you're having problems. Maybe you're a businessman, you have a business, you have a company, a startup or an established company, and your sales are not doing well. You want targeted information, targeted studies, targeted support on your sales. What other business schools won't do for you, because you will be forced to do a 12-month program, or something that may not even, in fact, during my during my MBA, a few of my colleagues were always complaining that why were they asked to write essays and, quote, research and do a lot of citations and all that when they knew they were never going to do that in the business world, right? But again, it was part of the curriculum, and you don't blame the universities because that's the curriculum. That's the curriculum. But for a company like Roadmap MBA, you come in, you want to get targeted information on sales, you go straight to the module on sales. And the good thing, and this is just giving you a tip of the iceberg, the good thing about the program is that beyond just going to the content on sales, you have access to experts within the sales, area, and you can attend their live classes, their live streams, and attend their classes as well. And then you have opportunities to ask your questions directly and get solutions. So you could even just spend the next 1 month alone on sales, and after that, you step out, go and apply the knowledge, get your turnover, get your monies, and then come back again. Maybe you decide you want to do finance. So you could take your time at your pace with constant hand-holding. And that's the beauty, and that's the unique value proposition of a company like Roadmap. So I think that already explains value proposition. So if you're going into a business, you must be able to articulate, what's your value proposition? What am I doing to solve the problems? And how am I doing it differently from others? Roadmap is bringing business education, but differently is that it's bringing it to 5 billion people, free, accessible, right? With a roadmap that ensures that you can do different things depending on the market dynamics or your need analysis at the moment, and then come back to it with adequate hand-holding and support. That's the unique value proposition. And then the next thing you want to do in identifying your business model is to say, what are my customer segments? I think one of the things that has made businesses fail, there's a huge percentage of businesses, startups fail within the first 2-3 years. And in my understanding, and most of my engagements with startups and some of the consulting work I've done, is that most times startups want to play global at the beginning, or they want to solve problems of a huge customer base or customer segmentation. So you want to solve for the Gen Zs, the Gen Alpha, all the gens. You want to solve for all the demographics at the same time. And what that does is that most times it makes you not to be, not to have a unique value proposition. So you have value propositions for everybody, and then you no longer are able to prioritize and focus, which is one of the key problems of startups. So you must have a customer segment that you want to work on, right? The specific groups of people that the business will target are your customers. And then how do you get to them? Channels. And when you're thinking about these things, that is when maybe the business model begins to really structure to say, do I want to run a traditional business, right? Where I have a product, I control all the factors of production, or do I want to run maybe a platform business, a digital business? Or do I want to run a franchise? So these are types of business models which we will talk about later. So, and when you understand the channels you want to, how do I get to the customer? I've identified the customer segment. How do I get to them? Through the internet, social media, emails, direct marketing, referrals, seminars. It's at that point that you begin to pour down all you have in your head. Put it down there. And then the next thing is your customer relationships. What kind of relationships do you need to be able to foster your business? Are you going to be using most of your more or less your direct contacts? Are you going to, get maybe influencers or something? But again, you need to begin to think about, how do I reach the more? How do I scale? How do I reach more people? How do I build that relationship? And then this is a very important one, your revenue streams. At the beginning of every business, you need to be able to articulate, how is this business going to be sustainable? And, one of the key things you will always learn in any business school, of which this is a business platform, is that the essence of business is profit. There could be other things that goes with it. You have to, of course, be profitable to even begin to think about doing many other things for the environment, for sustainability, carbon and all that. But you must be focused on what? On profitability. And if you don't have revenue, you can't be profitable. So you need to understand what are the streams, what are the areas that revenue will come to me, and then you need to decide who are the key partners, who is going to help me get to that goal. You need to identify them, and then you need to identify what are the key activities, what are the things we're going to be doing. Okay, we're going to have a production line where we would produce manufacture the product. We're going to have a sales team. We're going to have a finance team. And then we're going to have this. What are the core activities? You may want to break those down as well. The core activities you need to get off the ground, and then the secondary activities you need to do. And it's in these activities as well could lead you to say, I don't want to own all the factors of production here. I don't want to own all the areas. I don't want to have run an inside business. I want to only manage this because this is where my core expertise is, and then I'll outsource the others. Or I could now begin to say, based on the activities that I've listed, I don't have expertise here. Can we begin to build partnership with people who have them? And then we focus on the ones we have expertise. So these are the kind of conversations that this business model canvas helps you to illuminate, to bring out, because you see them clearly. And then the last one is your cost structure. So what are the kind of things that I'll be expending money in, to know how much do I even need to kick this business off the ground, right? So let's look at types of business models. So we've talked about what is a business model and why you should have a business model, because, and we said why you should have a business model is because you need to be able to understand how you structure, to be able to create value and sustain it. Because you don't want to create a one-off business or a one-off, season. You want to be able to sustain your value creation, within a business. And now we're looking at what are the types of business models that we have out there. The most and the first kind of business model is what you usually will call the product or service. Usually we call this as well the traditional business model. Here, and this is when when we were growing up, most especially in the industrial age, in the industrial era, most companies would usually have a product or a service. You look at the people who made all the monies, the German companies, vehicle companies in the past, most of them had a product. So usually this kind of business model means that so you kind of control the factors of production. You have the manufacturing, you own the sales, you own the everything. You have everything with that. And then you have a tangible product. Sometimes if it's a product or if it's a service, you have something that comes out at the end as a service. but you own everything in there, right? And then you make your money from usually within this kind of products, within this kind of business model, you make your money from horizontal or vertical expansion. So if you may decide, okay, you have a factory or you're a manufacturer, you could decide you want to have more factories, replicate them, or you want to increase your sales, your sales capacity to go, so you're either growing horizontally or vertically. But at the end of the day, you own almost everything within the line of production, right? And that's the traditional way. Usually very, very capital intensive. Established businesses within these areas are usually, established markets here are usually hard to break into because they control most of the things and then they control the market. So it's a more or less what we call a supply side business because they control the product. You can control how many products you make and stuff like that. So this is more or less the traditional, and it was more available or more trendy. It's still there anyways, but it was more trendy as a means of making money and doing good business, being profitable in business. It was more trendy in the industrial era. There is another kind of business model called the subscription-based model, right? Subscription-based. Subscription. I can't spell this anymore. Okay. Subscription. Yeah. So with the subscription-based model, we're talking about, having a business that allows users or allows customers to subscribe, to pay a certain amount on a regular basis. And most times we see this kind of service around more like software as a service kind of products, right? Where, you have a company like, for instance, Microsoft packages, right? You have or Google Drive. You have you subscribe to storage, right? You pay on a regular basis to use that service. You're subscribing to it. The day you stop using it, you stop getting access to it, right? Music streaming, Spotify, you pay on a regular basis to access them. So most of these ones are more of software as a service, but this is a model. This is a model. And these are the kinds of things you want to be asking yourself. The kind of product I want to bring to the market or the kind of service I want to bring to the market, what is the optimal model that will ensure that I not only create value, but I continue to create and deliver value, right? And this, so once you've been able to outline those in your business model canvas, you need to now begin to ask yourself, what is the optimal model? Do I want to have exclusivity of this product and just have people subscribe to it? Or if my product is a tangible, do I want to manage everything around the factors of production? If it's a kind of a niche kind of product that you don't want people, it depends on what you're giving out or what product you have. And then another business model we have is what we call the freemium. Freemium. So this is actually from free plus premium. So you have this here, freemium. Now the freemium business model usually is a very interesting one because, again, depends on what you're trying to do in your business. You may want to consider this, where the basic product or the baseline product is free, and then you want to build some kind of graduation beyond the free product, and then get more people can graduate from the freemium. But again, these are things that you need to do. If you add additional features to the baseline one, you can begin to have more there. So again, this is also another model that is used by most of these software companies as well. So for instance, you can use Spotify all through your life without paying a kobo, right? You could use Duolingo. I think it was 90 or 95% of the users on Duolingo are free. But again, you need to ask yourself really, what kind of service do you have? What kind of product are you building? What kind of product are you building? Could this be a good model for you? Most companies who need a huge network, who want to build a huge network, want to build a platform, usually would run on this, because you want to bring in a lot of people into the community and then begin to harness that community, create positive effects within the community, and then you begin to see the benefits of the community, right? And then the next, another business model which is quite interesting, that has been very topical recently, is the one we call the sharing economy. Sharing economy. And once you, sorry, excuse me. Once you talk about sharing economy, everybody's mind goes to Uber, Airbnb, rideshare and all of them. This is a more recent business model, and that's why we keep talking about business model innovation. In about 50 years ago, this would never have been possible, right? But because we now live in a freer world where we can trust people at the first meeting, we can talk about the sharing economy. So, and this was actually thought about by someone thought about it and say, how can I begin to, I think it was Airbnb actually started somewhere in the US, where a set of people were talking about how, I think they were going for a conference. And they were thinking about how do they kind of share spaces with people who are already in the location where they were going for the conference. And how do they do that and create it for everyone coming into the conference? So if we're coming to do a conference in Newcastle, people that are in Newcastle, who are attending the conference from Newcastle, who had spare bedrooms or spare rooms to give out, could house people who are coming from the US, for instance. But because they had things in common, they could have common conversations in the morning, having coffee and discussing about the day's activities in the conference. And then they'll pay, for the extra rooms and stuff like that. That was how it all started. And it got to a point when they felt, okay, how do we even make this a little? And they started doing it for conferences. And from conferences, they said, no, there's a bigger market here. And today we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar business, right? So that's the sharing economy. And in looking at this, it's not just looking at sharing Airbnb, Uber. This model can actually be applied in many other areas of our lives. Many other areas. It's just about applying these principles into where you're trying to do your business to see which kinds of this model applies to your own business, right? And then the next one, which I want to talk about, is the franchise business model. Franchise. Back home in Nigeria, I don't know if that brand existed elsewhere, but back home in Nigeria, we used to know of a big brand called Mr. Biggs. And Mr. Biggs, you could have, and I'm going to talk about this franchise and talk about what I consider the benefits and the disbenefits, right? The demerits. So we used to have Mr. Biggs all around, But you could go to a Mr. Biggs in one location, and the kind of meal you have is like kind of a fast food location. The kind of meals you have were not consistent with the kind of meal you have in another location. And it took me some time to really understand that what this company was doing then was they had a big brand, a huge brand. And this franchise business usually works when you've created a huge brand. This is usually called the brand effect. You've created a huge brand for yourself, right? And then you need to leverage that brand. You need to scale, leveraging your brand while reducing the risk of multiplying, of scaling. So it's usually for businesses that want to scale, but they also want to reduce the risk. But again, it's kind of counterproductive because risk depends, while you're trying to reduce the risk, the financial risk of scaling, you may be taking up brand risk, which is even more expensive. So usually why I said the demerits is that you could have a business and you have a big brand. Now all you do is to give people franchises to say, okay, go and open another location or outlet of my business with my name, but you run it as your business and then you pay me some royalties or whatever, right? And that's the whole franchise thing. But the problem is usually in the quality assurance. How do you ensure that you maintain the quality of the service and the product, and then the customer experience? Because the franchise business could actually impact the brand itself, and then it could lead to the business running out, right? Yeah. Airbnb started with airbeds. Thank you very much. That's correct. Airbeds and breakfast. I think that's actually what the Airbnb mean. Airbeds and breakfast, right? So franchise is good. You need to think about it, but again, it comes with its own risks, brand erosion, customer experience not being within regular or acceptable levels, right? But it could be very profitable to run a franchise business if you have a brand that everyone knows already, right? And then another one's almost similar to that is like the licensing business model. Licensing business model. So here is also similar to that, where you have a solution and then you grant licenses to people. A typical example is the CRM, for instance. So you have a lot of CRM solutions. Microsoft Dynamics, you have the Salesforce, you have Zoho, you have many of them, right? It's usually license-based. So the company would value the service per license and then give you licenses. So most times software as a service, they use this licensing model. At the end of the day, you need to find out what was the optimal way for my own business in all of these models, right? And then the final one, I'm going to talk about two last conversations I'm going to discuss here. And one is the platform business model. The platform business model. Now, this has been more like the revolution within our time. And it comes in different names. You can call it platform, you can call it aggregation, you can call it network, you can call it marketplace, right? Because that's what it simply is, right? And this is almost a direct opposite of the first business model I talked about, which is the product or service, right? Remember the first one, the product service, that is a kind of a traditional business model where you own the factors of production, right? You try to control them, which means you have to really have a lot of capital to do that because you need to manage a lot of internal processes, right? But on the platform business is simply a kind of a digital platform or a digital marketplace that connects different networks of people, right? It could connect buyers and users. It could connect producers and their markets. It connects any kinds of people. It connects service providers and service users, right? And so it's quite the opposite of the product business model. In this model, and this model has evolved because we have now left the industrial era into what we call the internet era, or the fourth industrial revolution, or what you call that. But more or less, this has been triggered by the internet era. So everything is happening in the internet. So you can see from the 2000s when we started the dot-com boom and stuff like that, the Yahoos, you can see the trend, right? Yahoo came, and it came with a kind of a game changer. Google came and kicked it off, right? And then we've moved on from there, from one platform business to another. And if you look within the tech space today, in fact, there was a survey that I think it was Deloitte that did, and we're talking about different businesses and the kinds of the kinds of valuation that they have today. One of the highest valuable companies in the world today. You talk about the Facebooks, the Microsofts, and all of them. They are all running platform businesses. So if you are someone who is thinking about business in this era, you may want to as well have a thought around platforms. And the interesting thing is that there are no areas that you cannot do this. Just think about anything. You can use a platform there. Just think about any area you want. And the good thing about platforms is that there is low marginal cost. When I talk about marginal cost, I think marginal cost is the cost the cost for bringing in an additional client or additional customer, right? With a platform business, let's take an example. If you have a product business model, to get a new customer, you have to advertise to the person. And then you have to create a new resource that would go after the person, do the production and everything. So you are almost creating another multiple of your business line to be able to get a new client. But with the digital or the platform business, most times platform businesses are digital, technology. With technology, it's marginal cost to scale. You could use the same platform to manage 100 people that you used to manage 500 people. Right? All you just need to do is to keep upgrading the baseline infrastructure, which comes at a very marginal cost. And that's why we say it's marginal cost. It's actually nearing to zero. And that is the reason why platform businesses are the most profitable, because they are lean. They are lean, right? So even though they have offices, some of them have offices now and all that, but the core scaling of the business is bringing more customers and, getting value, creating value. So the core processes of creating value, sustaining value, capturing value, can be done at marginal cost. And that's so when you keep your two ways of making money in any business, we all know, increase your revenue, your production, increase your sales, or you do what? Reduce your cost. Two ways. Now, what these guys have done more in the platform business is to totally reduce cost to almost zero. Cost of acquiring a new customer, right? So that's how they make a lot of money in platform businesses. And you can apply the principles anywhere. And you scale quickly. You can imagine ChatGPT, for instance, came out and in 5 days, they've scaled to 1 million customers and more people queuing up, right? So if you find a good application of a platform, solving the key problems, because with this also comes some challenges, and I'll share with you. There are some challenges that come with the platform business. It means you're sitting in a place, you're creating a marketplace, a digital marketplace, right? Where you're saying, you who produces come, you who wants to buy come. Now there is still that underlying problem of trust, isn't it? Where the buyers and the sellers need to trust themselves to be able to transact. There's a privacy issues, there's a security issues that comes with digital, right? So if you're thinking about a platform business and you have some answers to trust, to privacy, to security, of course you can be solving trust with blockchain, for instance. So imagine the fusion of a blockchain technology, right, where you have smart contracts, you have your consensus, you have those principles. Imagine where you apply a blockchain technology and the principles into a platform business to solve trust. So the opportunities are endless. They're endless here with platforms. And like I said, they can be applied in every space. It's today working in transportation, Uber. It's working in the media, Facebook. It's working in kind of what you call e-commerce, the Alibabas, the Amazons. It's working in, I think it's just your imagination. Think about any sector, go into it, think about how do I create a platform that ensures that we reduce the factors, kind of democratize the factors of production, open up the space, and kind of democratize profit as well. Because what happens with platform business is that it's a win-win for everyone. The guy who has the market, who has the product, no longer has to do so much to get to the client who wants to buy it. He saves the monies he would have used to get customers. The guy who needs the product also gets the customers, and he probably gets them at a better rate. And everybody gets a better deal with the platform business. And then, with the platform business also comes the concepts of distributed workforce, gig economy. Now, just imagine a world where you create a product that leverages the gig economy, the distributed workforce, and the platform business. This is opening your minds to the possibilities available. And this is the future. The future of work is in distributed workforce. People can stay in Kenya and work in the UK. People can stay in Nigeria and work in the US. People want to wake up in the middle of the night and work. And that's why companies like Upwork is making a lot of money. They're ranked as one of the biggest because they create a marketplace for talent. But again, within those models, there are still some defects that can be improved using some of these models. So there's the opportunities are endless.